Yo, what's going on, dudes? Hopefully everyone is doing okay, so welcome back to the channel. In this video we're going to talk about overtaking, so stick around and I'll give you my personal top tips on how to overtake safely. So the first thing you need to know about overtaking on a motorbike is it is one of the most hazardous things you can do. There's just so much that can go wrong if you misjudge it, miscalculate it, miss something on the road that you didn't see. It can be a very, very dangerous thing if you do it incorrectly. So although it's common for bikes to overtake cars, I mean, you'll see it all the time, you have to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So the one thing that we've got a massive advantage over is bikes are a lot quicker than cars, especially on the road. You know, we're talking about road bikes and road cars, we're not talking about super bikes and supercars here, alright? It's a fact. Bikes are just faster, alright? They will overtake quicker, they've got more power to get that acceleration up there really quickly, get past whatever it is you need to get past. And because we're smaller, more nimble, we can pull out, pull back in fairly easy. But before you do all that, there's things that you should really know before you start looking into overtaking. Now the first thing to take into account here is this isn't aimed at mod 2. If you're training for your mod 2, you might do overtaking. We did do overtaking while training, and it's mainly because we're on a lot of dual carriageways and stuff, and you can overtake no problem on a dual carriageway. But as for single road overtaking, we didn't do any of that on our mod 2. Well, we did actually, but it was more for our knowledge. So just remember that this information is for after you've passed your test. If you're training for your mod 2, I recommend you speak to your instructor, see how they feel about overtaking while you're learning. Like I said, on dual carriageways and stuff, this shouldn't really be an issue because you're allowed to pass on a dual carriageway, but single lane roads might be a lot different, so just clear that up with your instructor. So with that out of the way, let's go into my tips for overtaking. So the first thing you've got to look at is it legal? Am I legally allowed to overtake? So all this sort of stuff you'll do in your theory test, and obviously you'll go over some of this stuff while you're training. But the things you should be looking out for is road signs. Is there any road signs that say don't overtake? But the main thing to look out for that gives you an indication of where you can and can't overtake is the centre lines. So the centre line can give you a lot of information. If there's a hazard coming up, it can tell you if you're allowed to overtake, and it can tell you if you're not allowed to overtake. So in terms of overtaking, if there is a solid white line on your side of the road, you are not allowed to overtake. I'll put diagrams up on the screen so you know what they look like. I'm sure you would have saw them anyway if you've been out on the road. So you'll get a double white line, and that is an absolute no-no. It doesn't matter what side of the road you're on, there shouldn't be any overtaking. And you can also get a solid white line with broken white lines on one side of it. So if the solid white line is on your side of the road and there's a broken white line on the opposite side of the road, that means that you're not allowed to overtake. If that was flipped, where it was broken on your side of the road but solid on the opposite side of the road, that means that you can overtake, but the people on the opposite side of the road can't. So anytime there is a solid white line on your side of the road, you're not allowed to overtake. That's the road markings, and that's when you know when you can and can't overtake. So there's other road markings that you should be aware of. Obviously things like if you're planning to do an overtake and there is a box junction coming up, don't overtake, because if you overtake and then a car pulls into that box junction, you know, that's not going to end too well. And also things like arrows. You'll see arrows that will be pointing back onto your side of the road. Those arrows are there to make you aware it's time to pull back in because you're coming up to a hazard. It could be a bend, a dip in the road. But if you see those arrows on the road while you're overtaking, you need to hurry up and get back in. If you see them up ahead, obviously you don't want to be overtaken because you know there's a hazard coming up. So let's get on to the actual overtaking part. Like I said at the start of the video, overtaking can be one of the most hazardous things you can do on a bike. There are so many things that can go wrong if you make a mistake, you know, didn't see something coming, you're not able to see around a bus or a truck or something. One thing to remember when it comes to overtaking is there will always be another opportunity to overtake. If the overtake is not on, or you think that it's not safe, don't overtake. It's that simple. There will always be another opportunity to overtake. So when would you need to overtake then? Is it necessary to overtake? How fast is the traffic in front of you travelling? You know, if we're, say, on a 60 mile an hour national speed limit road and the traffic in front of you is doing 60 miles an hour, you don't need to overtake because you're doing the speed limit anyway. Now see these here, see the arrows? Now that's telling you need to pull back in because there's a hazard, which is a corner, solid white line on my side of the road and double solid white line, so no overtaking whatsoever on the double white lines. Had the arrows which led on to the solid white line on my side of the road. You can also see it coming from this direction. This is telling oncoming traffic to get back in, and we got all that information just by having a wee bit of knowledge. If you're doing 60 miles an hour, there's not really much point, is there? I mean, that's entirely up to the rider. I'm not going to tell you how to ride. I personally wouldn't see a point in overtaking because you're doing 60 anyway. If, for example, they're doing 40, yeah, I mean, that would, to me, would be like a reasonable scenario to overtake. So if you see that there's an overtake on, what do you need to look out for? So the first thing you've got to look out for is, can I see way up in front of me where I know I've got enough information that tells me you're okay to go ahead and overtake. So what I'm looking for is there any road signs telling me there's any junctions on the opposite side of the road? If there is, never ever overtake if there's a junction on the opposite side of the road. If you pull out to overtake, you can't see if there's anything coming out of that junction, and if they pull out, you're going to go straight into them. So any junctions on the opposite side of the road, wait until you've passed it. You also want to be looking at what is the road doing. Does the road have any hidden dips? Does it have any corners? Is the road narrowing to obviously a thinner lane road? You'll get that on these back roads and all that sort of stuff. So you need to be very wary of that. If any of that is present, dips, corners, hazard lines, then don't overtake. You also need to look at the road condition. What condition is the road in? Can you see any potholes? Is there any dirt or gravel? If you're out on a back road, out in the country somewhere, passing a lot of farms, there's a pretty good chance there's going to be tractors about that's going to have dirt and manure on the road. You need to watch out for all that stuff. You don't want to be hitting that. So make sure that the road you intend to travel on when overtaking is nice and clear, free of debris, free of dirt, manure, grit, all that sort of stuff. So you've assessed the situation, you see an opportunity to overtake, and everything is in your favour. The road's clear, it's a nice clear road, there's no junctions on that side of the road, there is no corners, there's no dips, there's no nothing. It's a nice open stretch of road, and you know for a fact it's a good place to overtake. Now obviously one of the biggest things you have to watch for in that situation is what is coming towards me. Like I said earlier on, bikes can accelerate a lot faster than what a car can, so bikes can get round stuff a lot quicker. So you've got to make sure that if you're going to pull out to pass something, you have more than enough time. Don't leave it to the last minute and you go, should I go, right, to hell with it, let's go out, oh my god, that car's really close. Make sure that that car is way off in the distance and you have got more than enough time to make the overtake. I'll go on to the whole what you should do when you're actually overtaking, but one thing you should really try and do is try and overtake by only using one gear. Alright, you don't want to be overtaken and you're up the gears. You don't want to do that. Obviously if you're on a bigger, more powerful bike, it's going to have that power in one gear, you know, no issues whatsoever. So what you want to do is you want to find a gear that has enough flexibility for you to open the bike up, get out, past the vehicle, pull back in, and then back into the centre of the road and carry on with your ride. I can't tell you what gear to be in because every bike's different. That's only something that you can tell by riding your own bike. The whole OSM PSL should apply. We spoke about this before in the Mod 2 training videos. Things like the position video, we went over it in great detail there, and you're kind of doing the same thing. The whole process is exactly the same as if you were moving position on the road. So remember in the position video how we spoke about if you're going to move position, you would have to do your OSM PSL. So you'd have to do your mirrors, signal, lifesaver, manoeuvre, you know, position, speed, look, all that sort of stuff. So if there is an overtake on, the first thing you want to do is how far are you from the car in front. You don't want to be right up the car's butt. You do not want to do that. you want to hang back a wee bit, because by hanging back a wee bit, you're basically opening up the view of the road. If you've got a better view of the road, it's a win-win situation, isn't it? If you're right up behind that car in front, the view is really, really restricted. So by holding back, you're able to get a better view. And that is an absolute essential thing to do if you're following something like a bus or a truck, because like we said earlier on, if you can't see their mirrors, they can't see you. So you've hang back, you've got a nice clear view of the road, whether you're passing a car or a bus or a truck, whatever. What do? Moving out towards the right hand side of the road a bit, it not only gives you a better view, it allows the road user in front to see you in their mirror and go, there's a biker coming up behind me, they may be overtaking. So the overtake's on. What do? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do your OSM. You've done all your observations, everything looks good. You're then going to signal to let everybody know what your intentions are. At this point for signalling, what I'd do is I would probably be a little bit more over towards the right hand side of the road. It just makes your life a little bit easier. So observation, signal, lifesaver, manoeuvre. So when you manoeuvre out to pass the vehicle, and that's you moved into the new position. Speed, obviously, like we said, 1 gear, and you're looking, making sure that everything's still nice and clear. And when you've passed the car or whatever it is you're passing, left indicator, left lifesaver, pull back in, cancel your indicator and carry on. That's pretty much all there is to it. The actual overtake itself is fairly easy. It's not a difficult manoeuvre. But one thing that you have to take into consideration is, like we said, it is one of the most dangerous things you can do on a bike. I can't actually remember the last time I followed a wee learner. It's been a long time. I'm going to hang back because I've been in that position before. You've got your L plates on and some guy in a big motorbike comes up behind you and you're like, oh my god, did it just get really hot or is it just me? So I'll hang back and give them room. The main thing that you need to remember is safety comes first. If it's not safe, don't overtake. So your first overtake is going to be your most nerve-wracking overtake, because unless you've done it in training, you know, obviously maybe you did do it in training, so you've done an overtake before, but you've had an instructor behind you just reassuring you, making sure that if you are going to overtake, it's okay, it's clear. They're not going to let you pull out and overtake on a dual carriageway or something if it's not safe to do so. So that first overtake by yourself is by far the most nerve-wracking. But as long as you apply all those things, the OSM, PSL, make sure that you do it in 1 gear, make sure you do those lifesavers, moving out, moving back in, and making sure that if it's not safe, don't do it. It is that simple. If it's not safe to overtake, there is always another opportunity. So this road up here, we might get an opportunity to overtake, providing it's clear. Right, I can see a way down that road. Obviously there's a dip in the road where that red car's going down, and you can also see there's a double white line there. So we need to just wait. I'm in an appropriate gear. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move out to the right hand side a wee bit. I'm going to indicate, lifesaver, pull out, indicate, left lifesaver, and pull back in. Oh, look at this lovely Scottish weather we're having. Oh my god. Right, well anyway dudes, that's it for the overtaking video. I'm gonna go home because I'm gonna end up like a drowned rat by the time I get there. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, guys, give it a thumbs up. I really do appreciate every single one of your likes, and of course if you want to see all of my uploads, click on that subscribe button. But until next time dudes, stay safe, ride safe, and take it easy.